Hey everyone, let's dial things back. It's time for a new segment we're calling Catalog Lullaby. And today we're featuring catalog copy for the Arn Pax Mountain Magic 50 Pro backpack.
The Arn Mountain Magic 50 Pro. It is no surprise that this pack is a thru hiker favorite. It weighs just around 1 kilogram. It weighs just around 1 kilogram and has a free-flowing harness system and comfy dual adjustment hip belt. This is your catalog lullaby, sweet dreams.
Plan to visit Arn at Switchback or GOA Connect this June. If you can't make it there and you're not too sleepy, head to arnpax.com. And hey, sweet dreams, everyone. Welcome to the Rock Fight, where we speak our truth, slay sacred cows, and sometimes agree to disagree. This is an outdoor podcast that aims for the head. I'm Colin True, and today Shawnté Salabert and I will be talking about a whole bunch of outdoor adventure topics. But before we get to that, if you missed Monday's episode of the Rock Fight, go back to hear Owen Comerford and I lay out what's really at stake for outdoor brands in our current trade war. And then be sure to come back to the Rock Fight this Friday for my conversation about public lands during Trump 2.0 with the CEO of the Outdoor Alliance, Adam Kramer. And lastly, this is the time we say to you, you gotta follow the show. You gotta click the follow button on whatever podcast app you're listening to us on. And then go over to our other podcast, Open Container, hosted by Doug Schnitzbahn. Follow that show and rate us all 5 stars, and then you're done. All your homework's done. You can just get back to listening to the show. It'd be great. And stick around. We'll be right back. All right, folks, time to set the record straight. A few weeks back, listeners heard me rant on about a new sandal from Lems shoes. That sandal, the new Switchback sandal, was a classic single-strap, single-post style that I, without much knowledge, accused of being just like someone else. What I wasn't informed on was Lems' unique take on making footwear, and let's just say a few rocks were thrown back at me, and rightly so, because Lems has really elevated the design of minimalist, natural movement footwear, anatomically correct, zero-drop comfort, and lightweight outdoor performance. And the Switchback? It's crafted from a single piece of material and features a unique single-strap design with one buckle for super ease of use, added comfort, and getting it on outside. You can go get yourself a pair right now at lemsshoes.com, where you'll also find that Lems is running a 20% off sale from now until May 11th. Oh, and hey, retailers, did you know that Lems is looking for wholesale partners? Hit them up at support@lemsshoes.com to add a little flavor to your shoe wall. And be sure to stop by and say hi to the Lems team at their booth at Switchback in Nashville this June. Check out the new Switchback sandal and all of Lems shoes by heading over to lemsshoes.com. All right, Shawnté Salabert, she's here.
Here I am, physically at least.
And well, not really. We're not in the same location.
Oh, that's true. It is all very metaphysical. It's very ethereal.
Did you happen to hear Monday's episode of The Rock Fight where Owen Comerford was quite disappointed that we left him off of our Rock Fight adventure racing team roster?
I feel like I should handwrite him a conciliatory note. Just, I'm sorry. Just maybe like write it 100 times on a blackboard just for my penance. Owen, again, it was not intentional. I, in my heart, thought you were better than all of this. Like, why would Owen want to do this with us? He is so far above this. So really, that was my psychological, my little like subconscious was just trying to protect you, Owen. Like, I think you're better than adventure racing with us.
So you're saying you intentionally left him off?
No, actually not at all. It's just, you know what? I think it was late in the day, and
it was.
Really,
we had already recorded a whole other podcast.
We were like 7 podcasts in.
That's right.
I was drunk on podcast at that point. No, Owen, I owe you.
And somebody did comment on my LinkedIn page when we put that episode up that, you know, me forgetting Owen is the Solomon of our adventure racing team or something.
You're never, ever going to live that down.
I said we're going to make Owen join the team, but he can only wear speed crosses. That's how we're going to make this happen.
Burn.
But it did make me think, what would be the roles of our rock fight adventure racing team? Like, what's your specialty if you were going to be an adventure on the adventure racing team? Like, what would you like? This is where I excel.
Well, all right. I think I'm a good team leader. I'm a good motivator.
Okay.
And when morale gets low, I think I can lift us up.
You've got just a barrel of poop jokes ready to roll.
Yeah. If anyone wants to fart, talk about farting, receive a fart, I'm here for it.
Okay.
And if they don't, I'm still here for it.
All right, let's get into our stories today. Our top stories today are presented by your hub for ultralight gear, Garage Grown Gear. Head to garagegrowngear.com and check them out. And we're going to just do a quick rundown of some stories that came out over the past week before we got to get into the meat of the episode. First one up is less than a week after I broke my own rule about talking about Mount Everest news here on the podcast. We actually have some news worth reporting. Per CNN, Nepal is implementing a new rule that mandates that those aspiring to climb Mount Everest will need to have climbed at least one other 7,000-meter mountain in Nepal. Yeah, in Nepal, not just like the Himalaya, in Nepal in the Himalaya, before attempting the world's highest peak. Obviously, this only applies to Nepal. This isn't, like blanket statement for everybody. But considering that most of the, big expeditions start on that side of things.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
progress.
I love that the Nepalese government is listening to the pod. Thanks, guys.
I know.
We appreciate
we got an
your
insider
support.
there.
Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, I'm not mad at it. It is an interesting requirement. I do think it's going to push more people. Well, push more people over to the Tibet side. But, I don't think this is a bad thing to aim for, especially when there's bigger questions of, is this mountain just being abused at this point? And, the people of Nepal, the people of Tibet look at it as a sacred place. And, it's become a moneymaker, of course. It's part of the industry there now. But maybe the bigger question here is, should maybe the mountain get a break? People talk about this all the time. Why don't we take a season off? Why don't we take a couple of years off? Let the mountain sort of recover. And, I guess there's just too much money to be made.
Yeah. And I guess that's obviously what they're trying to do, too, is like, how do we lessen some of the impact while also keeping that money in Nepal? So it's like, hey, you got to climb another mountain in Nepal. A lot of the guides were kind of commenting like, hey, just open it up to make it, a big mountain anywhere, kind of like, to check that box before somebody comes and attempts Everest. You'll probably have the same impact. But, baby steps. We'll see how we end up. Thought this was an interesting little development, though.
It is. I'm glad it gave you a reason to talk about Everest once again.
I know. Here we are breaking my rule a second week in a row. We'll see if we can go for 3 next week.
Rebel.
Next story. This was one that I think I could hear you being violently ill all the way up in L.A. when I sent this to you. Gear Junkie ran a story last week about the just completed 16-month-long trans-global car expedition. So last spring, a crew of custom-built vehicles departed New York City and headed north, eventually crossing the North Pole. And then they turned south and started heading down through Europe and Western Africa, all the way down to Antarctica and crossed the South Pole, and then turned north again and drove through South America and all the way back to New York City. And I guess the point was to circumnavigate the globe in a car.
That's about as much enthusiasm as I can muster. I'm a big fan of human-powered adventure. I mean,
Same.
Cars to me are the least interesting part of any adventure, any travel, anything in particular. But all right, I can carve out an exception for motorcycles only because, as a lifelong Ewan McGregor fan, I loved when he and Charlie Boorman did their Long Way Down, Long Way Around. I thought that was kind of interesting. But they
upped at least a new one of those, didn't they?
Oh yeah, yes, they did. God, I gotta
the
get
name
on
of
it.
I know.
But that at least, what I loved about that was that they were out there. Your body is in the elements. Like, you are part of the wind and the dirt and everything. And the car just feels a little sanitized to me. I don't know. It also just feels.
So you're not an overlander? You're not a fan of the overlanding community?
I'm not. I've gotten.
So you're anti-overlanding, is what I'm hearing.
Anti. It's just not for me. I mean, it's not something like I remember being pitched quite often when I was on staff at Adventure Journal, and people be like, "Oh, you want to write about this?" And I know Casimiro's into that stuff. I'm not. To me, it's kind of, it just feels a little too human versus land, and humans being like, look at us, we can run rampant all over you, especially the overlanding that's sort of off-road and you're kind of just smushing plants and things.
I think
this is like the little hippie nerd in me that just doesn't love that side.
No, I hear you. I think there's a nuance there. I get the sort of the overlanding where if it's like mobile car camping, you want to call it, and you kind of have a setup, and you kind of like are in a spot where, hey, it's going to enable you to get to see really interesting things. And when you're there, maybe you don't do some of the more hardcore things that a human powered kind of athlete would want to do. I get all of that.
Sure.
This to me, it's like, why? I mean, who cares that you drove to the North Pole?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and when you then see the vehicles they had to create
right.
in order for it to cross to the North Pole, which isn't land, they're floating sheets of ice.
Right.
And they have these like $1 million vehicles with these massive inflatable tires and shit. It's like, who cares? Like, okay, yes, to your point, this is I think you said it last week this is the, man versus nature, need to conquer world, plant my flag.
Yeah, it's very caveman. It's
Yeah.
modern caveman behavior.
Now, the one thing at the end of the article, which I was kind of there was, I guess, some level of like scientific research being done.
Yeah, and that you kind of have to, I think, because otherwise people would just totally rip into you at this point if you're doing an expedition like this. I think you kind of have to sort of wedge that stuff in there. Even think about the Blue Origin, sending Katy Perry into space. Ostensibly they're like, well, but there was a scientist on board. And I have a friend who's actually a materials engineer at Blue Origin. And, for all of the misgivings about working there, he's still stoked that they do get to do experiments in space and they send things up into space and see how they react. And, so there is an element of that in the billionaire's playground.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't get this one. I don't need to have a polluting vehicle going to the North Pole or the South Pole. And like the South Pole, again, everything that's down there is just research based anyway. Like, and so if that was an important thing to do, I figure somebody who was like stationed in the South Pole would have driven down there. I don't need my custom Ford Expedition that you made for $150,000 or whatever, zipping around the South and North Poles. So I'm good on that.
Moving on.
Last quick story before we get to the meteor stuff. Not meteor.
Not meteor.
Like meteor.
This isn't a space podcast, even though we just talked about space. It could be. I don't know. We'll think about it.
But Canadian Running, the publication Canadian Running, published a story about newly developed insoles that can detect injuries and illnesses. A new smart insole developed by scientists at Ohio State University, powered by solar cells, which I find to be funny considering it's something that goes inside your shoe, and including special sensors that can, quote, pick up early signs of everything from orthopedic injuries and dementia. Thoughts?
My thoughts are that I need to actually get back to my podiatrist who's been bugging me because I asked for an appointment and I have just been ignoring all of their phone calls. I got a corn for the first time, Colin. I feel like I've just gone from being a normal, middle-aged woman to being 95. I had a corn and I didn't know what to do. And
is that why you're just dressing in like a muumuu and like you have like a hairnet on? You're just sort of like, just graduated right to old age.
Yep. Yeah. I decided to slide right in. It seems easier. Yeah. I honestly, I'm kind of into this idea. I mean, I also have arthritis in my feet. I've been a little hard on my feet, through hiking, climbing, all sorts of things. So
sure.
If you tell me that I could put this thing in my shoe and that it wouldn't aggravate my existing arthritis, but B, it could give me more information about what's wrong with me that maybe I could then fix. I'm kind of down with it. I mean, I think I'm fascinated by the whole solar powered thing. Do I have to stick my feet up to the sky every once in a while? Like, how does that work?
To learn how to do a handstand to whatever these to work.
No, I'm going to just stay old. That's better.
I'm down with the idea of this. I think it's interesting. I mean, it says it could detect, early onset Parkinson's or something like that, right? Is what the article says. I'm just dubious. I'm deeply
dubious.
I'm like serious. Like, I think this just becomes a thing that then somebody gets and is just trusting the data implicitly, and there's really not probably a lot to back it up. I mean, these are pretty wild claims of like, hey, like you might have a knee injury because you went on this hike today. Like, maybe you're just sore. I mean, like, it just seems like, I don't know. People, I think, will lean into this a little more than they should.
Well, it is the age of RFK being in charge of our medical sciences. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to take every single medical claim in the next 4 years with a whole heaping, mine of salt.
Yeah, that's probably a smart idea. When we like, hey, you know how we cured that disease? Nah, we're just going to like research vitamins because that makes sense.
I think if you just lick the side of an apple 3 times under the full moon, you'll be fine.
Fine, totally fine.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess we are talking about a kind of gear with these insoles, even if they're solar powered. But let's talk about another purveyor of gear, garage-grown gear.
Yes.
Small and independent gear makers, they need your support now more than ever. Unlike big corporations, small brands don't always have the resources to quickly shift manufacturing, absorb surprise costs, or have cash to pay wild tariffs on their materials. Garage-grown gear is a place where you can find innovative ultralight backpacking gear from 200 plus small and ultralight brands all in one place. If you need gear this season, consider supporting small brands first before going to the big guys for what you need. You'll supporting those who need it more, and you'll get some pretty cool gear while you're at it. Check out GGG, or Triple G as Shawnté calls them, via the link in the show notes, or just head to garagegrowngear.com.
GGG is just awkward to say. I mean, I much like I call Ross Dress for Less. I cannot just call it Ross. I have to call it Garage Grown Gear. I mean, 3 G's in a row is a little hard on the mouth.
Ross Dress for Less. You got to say the whole thing.
I have to. I can't just say Ross. That's the guy from Friends. Ross Dress for Less, however, is a place to get deals.
Is it as mopey as the guy from Friends?
It depends on the day you go in. Sometimes like 7 p.m. on a Tuesday night, yes, it is.
It's just sad.
Maybe it's
sad
just me
Ross.
that's mopey for being
At
Ross
that point, you just call it Ross because it's sad, right?
Yeah, then it's just Ross. Then it's just RDFL.
You're listening to Rockfight Radio.
A ball sock for old times. It's no ordinary sock. It does what it says it does. Fit. Our socks merino, but they don't fall down. This sock fits better than your sock. A funky shaped sock that's an elegant solution to budging in the toes, heel slippage and falling down at the ankle. A sock with padded 10-inch structures that achieve whole foot comfort that you can really feel like whoa. A sock that acts like a base layer. A sock that's all about the base layer. A thermoregulating, moisture-wicking, body-forming base layer. Fits is a sock that fits better than your sock, maybe even the best sock ever. It really could be Fits, a bull sock for old times. It's no ordinary sock. It does what it says it does. Fit, 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 fit. It really could be Fits. Layer.
Well, you got DJ CT right here with you, and that was Bold Sock, the first big hit we ever had from Fits. Fits has been knitting the hits since 2014 with their patented whole foot comfort approach to making fine gauge merino performance socks. They make some of the best basics in the biz. Retailers, make sure to stop by and say hi at GOA Connect this June. It will be sure to put a smile on your toes. And now, back to the show. Our main stories today are presented by Obos, who loves hiking and as the Cupid of the outdoors wants to help you explore your love of hiking as well. According to GearJunkie.com, big week here on the Rock Fight for Gear Junkie, Yosemite has announced their reservation system for 2025. That site went live on May 6th, which was yesterday based on when this podcast will be released. Hopefully the world's still around 2 days from now. Apparently the system will be less restrictive than in the years past. There's concern that traffic will likely overwhelm the park, and when you combine that with the fact that the park is facing staffing shortages based on the recent cuts at the federal level, maybe it's a good year to go somewhere else. Because on top of that, you have Yosemite visitation, which just continues to climb year over year, as it has for the past 20. So, Shawnté, you sent the story over for our docket today, and your comment was, guess we're doing this again this summer. So what has your experience been using the Yosemite reservation system?
My experience has been the very few times I've tried to get a reservation, I couldn't. But honestly, it doesn't matter much to me because I generally am backpacking in the park. So when you have a backpacking reservation, you can show them the reservation. You won't have the permit until you actually go to the ranger station and get it, but you can show them the reservation, pay your entrance fee, flash your pass, whatever, and you can still get in. So either that or I take the Yards bus in a lot. It's the Yosemite Area Regional Transportation System.
I think we need to workshop that name a little bit.
Yards. No, it's great. I love it. Their logo is like half dome. It's actually very good, Colin. And it's an amazing, it is an amazing transportation. So if you're going to Yosemite this summer and you don't have a reservation, honestly consider taking the Yards bus in. It is a great, just know the schedules, buy your tickets in advance. I've used it, for backpacking trips last few summers, but overall, I'm not mad at the policy. I think that it was a smart choice of them to start thinking about, well, how do we sort of mitigate the incredible numbers of people who want to come through into this park. And when you think about the fact, you've been to Yosemite, right, Colin?
Actually, I've never have.
What?
Yeah, it's like every time we're going to, then I just kind of get scared off by the fact that everybody goes to Yosemite. Yeah.
Oh, Colin, that breaks my heart. It's an amazing place. It's absolutely
We all have
worth
our blind
visiting.
spots. Okay, it's one of mine.
Wow. All right, listeners, don't be Colin, especially if you live in California.
That's good advice in general.
Just don't be Colin. Yeah.
Just don't. I'm going to make T-shirts.
Don't be Colin all moosed up in the 90s trying to see how static electricity works. No, Yosemite is an incredible place. And here's the thing. Most people who are visiting are going to go, just like any national park, they're going to go to the places that are car accessible and that are designed to handle large tourist traffic. So you're going to go to Yosemite Valley, and then you'll get people driving along Tioga Road, Highway 120, and that kind of curls up through the park out through Tuolumne Meadows area. And so if you ever enter the park in the summer, or late spring, early fall, the entrance lines, the lines to get into the park, cars are it's abysmal. It is absolutely awful. You could be sitting there for an hour plus waiting to get in. I've seen this at Arches. I've seen this at some of the other national parks. There are a lot of people.
Rainier, same thing.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who want to go to these places, rightfully so. We've got to figure out ways to sort of mitigate that impact. I think that when we talk about access to public lands, people get very bristly about it because you want, hey, I'm paying for this. This is my tax money. I should have access. And yes, we all want to have access to these places. We just can't all go at the same time.
Right.
I also think there's an element here for people to understand that with rights come responsibility. I think it's a hard concept for Americans as a whole. We're still working through it, as we can see now. But I think that that's something to remember, is that these places aren't designed to, even these places that are paved over and have buildings and pizza places and beer decks and everything, they can only support so much, humanity at one time. So I think the system is great. And this year, it is a little less restrictive. If you look, most of the days where the reservations are required, which is already up on the Yosemite website, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. That is not a terrible time frame. So either go early, aim to see sunrise in the park. I highly recommend that, especially in the summer when it can get into the triple digits in the valley. Get your butt up, stay in El Portal or one of the neighboring towns, camp. If you can get a camping spot, you probably can't at this point of the year, but and get up early, see sunrise, or go after 2 p.m. It's really not a big ask, especially if you're staying in the park. Just go a little later in the day, and then you don't have to worry about it. So it's actually easier this summer for people to go in without a reservation as long as they go outside of those hours.
But don't you think, like, just with everything going on, and then our next story is going to be about, like, the public lands, like, fiasco that's currently going to be unfolding in the next few months. It's just like, and then you kind of combine that with with the sort of, it's already a thing. There may not be staffing. It just sort of feels like all these things are stacked against having a pleasant national parks experience in the summer of 2025.
Well, it's because we think of national parks as being the big marquee park. So it may not be the best summer. Like, you can think about in the past where we've had the budget stalemates with the federal government, and the parks have just, like Joshua Tree. We had graffiti on rocks and people mowing down Joshua trees and things like that. In that regard, it does make me a little nervous. What are the big, busy front country areas going to be like in these parks, especially since the Secretary of the Interior demanded that they stay open regardless of staffing? So you've got in Yosemite, it's been widely reported, you've got people who normally do science for the park now cleaning bathrooms one day a week because they want to stay on payroll, and somebody's got to clean the bathrooms. You had the backpackers campground in the valley. So there's several backpackers campgrounds in the park. People can go there if they have a permit. They can stay the night before or the night after they finish their trip. And the one in the valley is hugely important for people on the John Muir Trail, Numupoyo. It's a staging ground if you're starting going southbound in the valley. And it can hold a lot of people. And they announced that, last month, they were like, temporarily, quotes, we're moving it to Camp 4, and it's just going to be a couple sites, which wouldn't hold nearly, I think it could hold 30 some people, not the, 100, 120, whatever it normally holds.
Yeah.
There was a huge uproar, and then suddenly that language was removed from the website, and surprise, the campground's open. I think that going back to this whole idea of, is this a bad summer to be in the parks? No, because the national parks aren't just Yosemite. They're not just Yellowstone. It's not just these big marquee ones. This is a good summer, however, to go to some of the smaller parks.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, the thing
right?
everything's just kind of stacked against Yosemite. Like I said, the visitation rate just understandably why, like the way people want to see Yosemite. And I'll admit that has sort of played into my, even since we lived here, like when do I want to go? It's like, well, I kind of want to be really picky about when I get to go there.
Go in the late fall. It's gorgeous
Right.
then. Quiet.
And so, but to your point, there are, I mean, at least dozens, if not more, national parks that people don't even probably know exist because they could like list like, yeah.
National monuments, national grasslands. Did you know there were grasslands? State parks. There's so many public lands out there, and I think this kind of we're going to talk about this in a second. But if I didn't have to be in these national parks this summer for a project I'm working on, I would be visiting some of our national monuments that are going to be threatened and have been threatened and are going to be threatened again. Visit your national forests that are going to be threatened for logging because there's a mandate now to, log X amount of our public lands. I would really dig into what's around me, what's close to home, especially as prices are going to start rising this summer. You've talked a lot about tariffs on the podcast. People, I've seen people comment like, oh, I'm not seeing prices at the grocery store go up yet. I'm like, that's because we're still dealing with the supplies that we already had in the country.
We have.
People are not
90% of over-the-counter like pain medications like ibuprofen, acetaminophen, whatever. You know where that comes from? China.
Yep.
90%.
Yep. Yeah, I think people are going to be in for a rude surprise like sooner rather than later. And I think this is going to end up being a really weird summer leading into an even weirder fall.
It's not weird enough already.
As if it wasn't already strange. Like, oh my God. Yeah.
Well, that leads into our second kind of main story today. So the public lands remain under attack, like you said, from our current presidential administration. We reported a couple of weeks ago about a leaked document that we here at the Rock Fight had received that detailed the Department of the Interior's plans for public lands. And this Friday, the Trump administration released their budget guidelines for 2026, which included upheavals for the Park Service. According to an article by Fred Dreyer over on Outside Online, the guidelines included transferring national park sites over to state control, as well as a number of cuts, including the NPS Historic Preservation Fund. I mean, there's just a shit ton of stuff in there. But what were your thoughts when you saw this?
Well, first, I wasn't surprised. I mean, this has been telegraphed.
We knew it was coming.
We knew it was coming. We saw it during the first administration when we had the fights over reduction of monuments and things like that then. This is all an effort to privatize and monetize. I mean, you've got these weird conversations happening about, well, if we open up our forests to development, we can build more housing. And the asterisk there is who is the housing for and what kind of housing is. It's not going to be affordable apartments. It's going to be, nice houses. And it's about extraction, and you can have a debate about, well, don't we need to start producing more here in the country? Why are we relying so heavily on other countries for our resources? Which comes down to also a larger discussion about how we consume in the United States, which I think we're going to be taking a really sharp look at again as Americans over these next few months and years. But I think the thing is, and I don't know how this administration doesn't see this yet, this is one of the very few issues, public lands and access to the outdoors, that is largely bipartisan. I did a piece some years ago for Land and People back in 2020 about when the Land and Water Conservation Fund gained permanent authorization and full funding. And as I was reporting that piece, I'm talking to people in different areas of the country, and I'm talking to people on both sides of the aisle who were for it and who pushed for that legislation. Because the thing is, you're not just, taking away access to public lands or reducing them or starting logging in forests, things like this. They're not just affecting the hikers and the bird watchers. You're pissing off hunters and ATV enthusiasts and people who fish and far beyond that. Like, getting outside is a very American thing in a lot of ways. And so
the most American thing.
Yeah, come on. I mean, you saw already the senators from the Republican senators from Montana. So that's Steve Daines, who's long been a champion of public lands, and Ryan Zinke, the terrible, in my opinion, former Secretary of the Interior, both came out swinging and said, you are not going to privatize our public lands. You're not going to monetize them like that. So I don't know, Colin, like we're in for a fight, and we're going to need people to start to dig in more and be more active participants in their democracy as it's crumbling.
I mean, this is the frustrating thing about this, I mean, beyond everything on the surface that is incredibly frustrating is like,
everything.
well, yeah, but also sort of it takes away even the idea of this because there's a pragmatic and interesting conversation to be had of like, well, listen, if there's housing issues, like maybe there are chunks of land that it's kind of a shitty patch of land that nobody's going to use for recreation or whatever that could be developed for something, but under a thoughtful way to approach it or whatever. It's you have to consider the source and all this and what they're doing. The tariffs are the same thing.
Tariffs are the same exact thing.
Well, listen, if we really want to build more manufacturing in the U.S., what does that look like? And what is the timeline for that? And how do we invest in that? I mean, we've talked a lot about that with Owen, but it's just to say, we're going to fix it in 90 days. Like, no, you're not.
Right. Just like RFK is going to solve autism over the summer. That's his summer plans. I'm going to go to summer camp. He's going to solve autism. Like, it's just the whole thing is so bizarre and it's short-sighted. And I think it's intentionally designed to confuse people because nobody in the government is this dumb. Like, they can't possibly think that, I know, if we kneecap our entire outdoor industry, if we kneecap all of our public lands, that people are going to be like, cool, look at America thriving. Like, there's more nefarious things at hand here.
Yeah, if there's an attack on anything, generally speaking, it seems to be on like smart people and and science in general. It's like let's get all these smart people out of here so we can put our bad policies in place, so then people can't question it as much. So we also were going to have, like I mentioned before, Adam Kramer on the show later this week, and was talking to some sources over at the Outdoor Alliance, and they were just asking for kind of a general update of what they're working on. The first thing they sent over was, land sell-offs remain on the table. Both the Forest Service and the BLM have been directed to come up with parcels ready for, quote, disposal that are near big population centers. This is a big deal and not great. Republicans in Congress have the goal to have their reconciliation bill, which could contain the sell-off stuff, ready by Memorial Day. So this is that's a couple weeks away. We're not, we're coming up on it.
That's a couple weeks. That's not enough time, to have thought this through from all angles and just like the tariffs. It's not enough time to actually think through, well, how could we center more if we're looking to sort of increase our timber supply here at home? That is a very real thing to think about. There are a lot of people who live in this country, and again, we demand a lot of resources. I think this should be a call to all of us to reduce our consumption of things in general. We are a very thing-oriented society. Like I worked with a Swedish guy once. He turned to me one day, and this is a guy who would only get his hair cut in New York because that was the only place he trusted the hairstylists. But whatever. He was a little pompous. But he turned to me one day and he said, "Oh, Shawnté, you Americans, you are always consuming." And I was like, oh, he's not wrong.
Not wrong. Not wrong.
Yeah, in that regard, I think it's a great opportunity, but you can't just, shove this stuff through without thinking through it. Like, what does this mean? Parcels ready for disposal near big population centers. As someone who lives in LA, I'm looking at the San Gabriel Mountains National Monument. I'm looking at these federal lands that are kind of, that have been fought for years and years and years by multiple stakeholders, and thinking like, all right, what do they think they're going to do? We already don't have enough funding on these lands to properly maintain trails and bathrooms and staff them. Like at one point, the Angeles National Forest had like one functional ranger, which is not enough for a forest of its size. Right. We should be putting more funding into these places, not reducing them and taking the funding away. It's all really short-sighted, and it feels very devious. Like it feels like I just can't imagine what they think they're going to do that's going to make our lives better here.
Well, they're going to drill for oil and minerals.
So we can drive our cars around the world.
Even isn't there like an oil surplus in the world? Is that like the price of oil like plummeting because we have so much of it?
We have so much of it, yeah.
Yeah, another thing from the Outdoor Alliance, agencies are currently sorting out their RIFs, which means reduction in force, where they are losing about 30% of their staff, especially folks who have been at the agencies a long time. There is still a lack of clarity on how many people will be lost, but this is likely, back to our earlier conversation, to have big implications for summer recreation. Yosemite being a great example here.
I think part of this, like as I'm thinking through this, it's something that's occurred to me before, but think about this: reduction in force, reduction in funding. All of these things are designed, it's like mismanagement by design. So You're going to have a great case for selling off these public lands if they're being trashed. If people are not respecting the land, if there's things like, let's say, fires that are being started, illegal campfires, things like that. I think it's what this is all designed to do is to make these places less attractive as recreation places, show that they're being, quote, mismanaged, and I guess we should turn them over to privatization so we can make money on them.
Right.
That's that's got to be the end goal here.
That sounds accurate.
I don't know.
The last thing they mentioned was, I think you referenced it earlier, monument reductions are currently a rumor, but very plausible that it will happen at some point. And we know that everyone knows this has been coming as well.
Yeah, no surprise there. I mean, I think our monuments are some of our monuments, and honestly, the forests are some of our most underappreciated, I think, by the average person, because we just see like the sexy national parks.
Right.
Again, I'm going to say to people, these are very real risks. We are at much more risk during this administration than we were during his previous administration. And if you care about fishing, if you care about cycling, if you care about hiking, any of the things you like to do outside, if you have a business that is centered on the outdoors, you better get your butt in action and start writing to your people in Congress, start looking at local organizations that are supporting these places, go join, donate to land conservancies, trail crews, things like that. All of these people are going to need help, especially as funding is being pulled from anyone who utters the word climate change, things like that. We're going to need to kind of go all in on this, and we're going to have to do it together. There's no other way around this. This is going to be a huge issue, and it's going to hit us quicker than we think.
I was about to ask, what should we do? But you just answered me.
We should not, it feels a little doom and gloomy, but I do believe in the power of collective action. And I really do believe that silver lining in all of this can be shining a light on all of the groups that are already out there doing things. I mean, listen, if you're a cyclist, there are cycling groups that are out there maintaining trails already. There are, if you love through hiking, there's the Appalachian Trail Conservancy, there's the, PCT Association, things like that. Right. They're already out there trying to work on behalf of these places and these lands and these experiences that you like to have. So start to plug in a little bit more. Maybe calling your senator is not a thing you feel comfortable with yet. Okay, I would encourage you to get more comfortable with that. But at the very least, figure out who is already doing something and plug in. Trust me, you're going to feel a lot less despair if you feel like you have some little action you can take to stand up for these places.
Well, today's main stories in the Rock Fight were presented by Oboes, and they want to share their love of hiking, and we want to help them by uncovering all the different reasons we love to take the long walk.
Ooh, I love a long walk. I can't wait.
Especially Shawnté Salabert and her arthritic feet, her arthritic corn-ridden feet.
Oh my God, please never say that. Corn-ridden, wow. Although, just hearing the
phrase... It's a veritable garden down there.
That's not how corn grows. Oh.
Number 1 on today's list, starry night skies. Until you hear the rustling, and remember, you're not at a planetarium.
Wow.
Are these the ones we did last week?
No, these aren't, because now that
good.
you say planetarium, and I don't know, do you remember the year the Mayan calendar predicted? Was it
2012?
Was it 2012? And there was that whole prediction, like, this is the end of the earth, blah, 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 the apocalypse is coming. And I remember they were doing a presentation at the LA planetarium at Griffith Park at the observatory. And I was at a friend's house, and she had offered me an edible, and it turned out that it was a very, very strong edible. And I was just plastered to the seat for this entire terrifying planetarium presentation on the end of the world. I do not recommend going to the planetarium while being super stoned.
So the second week in a row, we've had a high on weed while out doing something. Last week was Blue Man Group. This week was at the planetarium. What will she say next week, boys and girls?
I am generally stone cold sober like 99% of the time. I just want everybody to know this. I'm old.
You're going to have to start making things up every week to have another story.
Don't worry,
let me tell you where I was stoned this week. Number 2 on the list. You meet interesting people on trails. Or people who just really want to talk about their gear setup.
Or their weed.
Right. Number 3, birdsong over honking horns, also known as nature's Spotify.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Number 4, you sleep better after a hike, mainly because you're too sore to move.
Truth.
right? And number 5, hiking means the Bridger boot collection. The Bridger Ridge is here to help you smooth out the rough trails in front of you. With enhanced stability and protection, the Bridger Ridge is Oboe's first boot with Gore-Tex. So bring on the smiles and the miles in the Bridger Ridge. And if you find yourself in the Tucson, Arizona area, be sure to head into the legendary Summit Hut and check out their full offering of Oboe's boots and shoes. And this hiking appreciation moment was brought to you by Oboe's of Bozeman, Montana, certified B Corp, 6 million tree planter, and inhabitant of the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. Oboe's is the maker of premium quality footwear for the trail and the Cupid to the outdoor world. Oboe's love hiking.
It's time for the parting shot.
All right, time for the parting shot. This is a very special parting shot.
Oh, really?
It's the Lems versus Bedrock showdown that the audience is, I don't know if they've been demanding it, but I promised that I need to do it. I need to do it. Well, I'm worried people aren't going to believe me because I got my Lems Switchback sandals, which I called out on the show when I first saw them because I was mad because I love my Bedrocks. And I saw them and I'm like, get off of Bedrock's corner, Lems. And then I got to talk to the folks at Lems and they were great. And now they sponsor the show. So like, everyone's like, you're going to say nice things about them because they sponsor the show. And that's not true. I'm giving an honest assessment of the Switchback sandal. These are truly my thoughts on that. Before I get into the Lems shoe specifically, when we on Gear and Beer, Justin and I did an episode about Bedrock. And we had some listener responses that they want Justin to bring back Gear and Beer. So fingers crossed that happens.
He should. I love Gear and Beer.
Yeah. So we looked at a couple of models by Bedrock when we did that episode. One was the Karen 3D Pro and then also the Karen Evo C. Bedrock has terrible naming conventions, but that's the only thing bad I can really say about that brand. But so the 3D Pro is my all-time favorite shoe, like in general. Ooh. I love the Bedrock 3D Pros. Like if you give me one shoe like to rule them all, it's that one. I love them. I just, okay,
we'll get there. All right, I'm jumping ahead. I'm too excited.
So the Evo C was their new sandal that was we kind of looked at it as like made for the masses because a little softer, had like kind of a cushier feel to it. You put it on, you're like, ooh, it's like spongy and cushy underfoot. And the 3D Pros and a lot of the other Bedrocks, a little more kind of just utilitarian, sort of like kind of tougher. And it's a little almost off-putting when you first put them on, but when you wear them around, they're like, oh, this is great, actually. They feel really good under your feet when you wear them all the time. I don't know if you have corns, if they'll feel good, but the like Crocs, how dare you?
They are off-putting when you look at them, and then you put them on your feet, and you're like, well, hello, sailor.
Crocs, I'm sure, yeah, it's like walking on pillows.
That's great.
So I didn't like the Evo C, though. That was my thing. I did not like that sandal. It was like, I could see this as being the shoe for the masses because it'll be more comfortable, but it wasn't for me.
You're not the masses. You're too cool for that? I know how you roll. Elite.
So, okay, that brings me to the Lems Switchback. And so the short of it is I really like the shoe. They fit great. Like they fit really well. I was really impressed with how well they fit my foot. And if there's a comp to be made to the Bedrock, I'd say it's kind of a more successful version of the Evo C. Because when you put it on, there is an absolute, for as minimal as it is, and they kind of make very minimal shoes, Lems does, there's a real cush to it, but it also kind of cradles your foot in a really, really nice way. Mm. It's incredibly well made. They have these little touches they made with the webbing and the buckles and the materials, top notch, worth the $120 price tag. But it was that midsole that I felt like that really nailed it and reminded me of the Evo C. I haven't had much time to do more than like kind of take the dog for a short hike. But they look great. They fit perfectly. They have this thing called the grommet, which kind of leads to their one-strap design, so it adjusts really easily, which a lot of times one-strap, like Chacos and whatnot, one-strap designs are something that's really hard to sort of adjust. But I will say, like the Evo C, which this is a better shoe than the Evo C, they don't come close to my 3D Pros. And that's still number one.
Ooh. Why?
It's the perfect balance of minimal, but yet I truly feel like I can just do anything in them. Like I will hike in them comfortably like I would in a pair of boots.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I believe
And also I want to wear them on a river trip. And I put them on, I just want to go do adventure stuff. I guess that's probably this
changes your whole mindset.
It does. It's like
you
like
are
a
the
superhero
person
thing.
advertising is meant for.
But the Evo C's didn't like those at all. I actually got rid of those when I was done testing them. I gave them away. I am going to keep my Switchbacks, and that is not because, unlike Bedrock, Lems does sponsor the podcast. So we love you for that, Lems, no matter what.
Thank you.
But I really did enjoy wearing them, and they would be a kind of more functional, maybe everyday summer sandal that I'll wear around without a doubt. So yeah, well, good job, Lems.
Okay.
The Switchback's a
All right.
good sandal.
I'm
Worth
looking at
$120.
them. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm looking at the website right now. I'm looking
Yeah.
at them. I'm seeing them with my eyeballs. They do look. There's something about the insole that makes it look smushy, and I kind of want to put it on my foot.
Well, I know some people over there. Maybe we can hook you up.
Yeah. How do they work for corn? Like these would be great for corns actually, because the corn I got. And
Where are the corns?
First of all, can I specify that I had one corn? Okay, it was a singular corn. And I thought I just had a hot spot. It started last summer where I was on the trail and I wear my Injinji socks.
Look at you. Look at you getting it right.
Listen, old dog, new tricks. I was wearing my delightful Injinji socks, and I thought at some point, so I don't know if you, we're getting deep into my foot anatomy here. But the two middle toes have like just a gentle webbiness to them. Like they don't go all the way down.
You're a good swimmer. Got it.
Thank you. I'm basically a platypus. I thought maybe a little web. I've been wearing Injinjis for eons. So it was surprising to me that I had an issue last summer where I just felt like searing pain between two of my toes. And I had a red spot there. I didn't know what the hell was going on. Anyway, I'm on the trail. I'm not going to sit and whatever. I just ignored the pain and marched on. But it came back after I did some backpacking earlier this year. And I was like, what the hell is going on? And then it got worse. And I look and I'm like, wait a minute, what is that?
There's a thing.
There's a little thing
There's
in
a
between my
growth.
two toes. So I got on telehealth with my insurance. I was like, hello.
Jamming your foot in front of your laptop camera.
Yes. I was like, can I please do an e-visit? And this poor doctor, it was the one, normally it's just just a generalist that's on there. This was an emergency room guy. And he's like, I don't know what I'm looking at, and I'm trying to hold my foot up. I put my computer on the ground at one point. I had my computer on the ground. I was like, hang on, sir. And I'm just holding my foot in front of as close as I could get to the lens, and I'm trying to show, I'm like, it's in here. Do you see it? And he's like, I think maybe you should just ask your regular doctor to for a podiatry appointment. I was like, can you just give me the referral? He's like, I guess I could do that. I really tried to show him. Anyway, I ended up just using some over-the-counter stuff, and it sloughed right off, and now it feels normal. But they're still calling me. They're like, come on.
So was it like a wart? Like, what's the difference?
It's not a wart. The difference is a wart involves virus. It's a virus that's in there.
So what's a corn?
A corn is a callus that starts growing inward. So a corn, what happens? So now you can see corn is not that gross. It's a callus from a part, and so in your toes sometimes the little bones will rub together, and then the callus starts to grow inward, and what's happening is it's putting pressure on your bone, and then that really hurts, as you can imagine. Anyway, you just put some salicylic acid on there and you file it away. Anyway, I got rid of it in like a week and a half. I was like, what the hell? This thing's been bothering me for months. Is it bad? What?
Yeah, well, because you're talking about it in the pod.
Like
so
hell.
Did you just do this recently?
Yeah.
Oh, so this was a recent removal.
This is recent. No,
okay.
Last summer it went away on its own, and then it came back.
With a vengeance.
I'm back. Yeah, it was absolutely horrifying.
Well, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. We'll get Lems to send you some switchbacks, and maybe we'll get Fitz to send you some socks because they sponsor the podcast too.
You know what? I have some Fit socks, and I love them. They're my favorite running socks. Are the Fit socks?
We are paying Shawnté to say this is a paid ad spot for Fit.
I would do so much better if it was a paid ad spot. Listen, just let me at it. Unleash me on the paid ad spots. I'm ready to shine. I'm ready for my moment in the sun.
All right, we can make that happen.
We can make it happen. Corns. Can I just put a plug in?
You want to do a spot for corns?
No, I don't want to put a plug in for corns. I did eat an entire bag of frozen corn the other day, though, for lunch. So
interesting.
Maybe I need a grocery sponsor. So I love a minimalist sandal. I know you didn't ask me. I'm not giving a parting shot, but if I was,
let's do it. Yeah.
I would just mention another, I think Lems is made in Boulder. Another US brand, I think I mentioned them once on the podcast, is Shawnté sandals. And I used to have a pair of Bedrocks. They were the original like OG. Oh my gosh, the Wisconsin comes out. OG sandals. Wow. We talked about cheese and it's like, it turns on a switch. It's like your switchbacks for your feet. Now we're getting into the glorious chaos part of this. But no, I switched over and discovered Shawnté sandals, and I got their speed goats, and I used them on the trail last summer, and they stay on my feet better than those original Bedrocks did, and I love them. And it's
Same
just
kind of
some,
similar design as that to them in the Lems, like that
Similar.
kind of like it's like a flip flop with a strap around the heel, kind of.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, they're
Kinda.
not as built up as these. I'm looking at the Lems right now. They're not
Yeah.
as fully featured. They're very minimalist, and they don't have as much cushion. The ones I
More
have,
like a Luna, maybe.
more
kind
like
of
a Luna in that
Okay.
family.
Okay.
Yeah, because they're definitely not a bedrock cairn. They make some like that, but this is a more minimal
Yeah,
one because I take
yeah.
it backpacking as my river crossing shoe / camp shoe / town
Mm-hmm.
shoe / disgusting showers. I don't want to get warts shoe.
Or corns.
Or well, that's not how you get corns. You get corns from pressure, Colin. Didn't you learn anything from today's episode?
Is that the title? Learn all about corns here on the Rock Fight and public lands.
Corns and
and
public
lands.
lands. Here on the
Just
Rock Fight.
rolls off the tongue.
Yep.
Rolls off the tongue.
More than GGG.
Love a callback.
That's what I'm here for.
I think that's the show. That was quite the show.
I think
Thank you
so.
all.
I think the people want that to be the show. Please go home now.
I think that's what they're going to get. So they don't have much of a choice in this. Let us
true.
know. Is that the show you wanted? Send your emails to myrockfight@gmail.com. The Rock Fight's a production of Rock Fight LLC for Shawnté Salabert and Colin True. That's me. Thanks for listening. And here to take us out, Kristen Makes. He's just back from the Punk Rock Museum where he was doing tours this past weekend. I wanted to go. We didn't make it to Vegas.
Yeah.
But that would have been fun.
Do they
But he's
still
gonna
do
sing-
punk rock bowling? Is it during punk rock bowling time?
I don't know.
I bet
they
it
do that
is.
at the Punk Rock Museum?
No, they do it at a bowling alley.
Oh, no, this is the Punk Rock Museum in Las Vegas.
I
It's
didn't
an
know
actual
if it was
museum.
A whole thing. I didn't.
Yeah, it's a thing.
I didn't know. I
And
didn't
they
know
have
if
like
it was
Fat
the
Mike
same
from
weekend.
FX will be like doing, like tours and stuff like that. It's cool.
Oh, very neat.
We should go do team building. We'll do an adventure race at Las
We have
Vegas.
so much team building to do. We've got to
So much
invite
to do.
Owen.
You know who we should have? Oh, you beat me to it.
We
Owen,
should
you can
ask
come
Owen
to the
if he
Punk Rock
wants to go.
Museum. Kristen Makes is going to sing the Rock Fight fight song. We'll see you next time, Rock Fighters.